Hey guys, this is the companion video for Flute Etude 2 for this year's Region 9 Junior High Band Audition. So my other video on this etude is a performance, which is useful for just understanding how the etude goes. You can use it as a practice companion, just to make sure that your notes and rhythm are lining up with me as I play along with the metronome. And then for this video, my intent is to walk you through the 3 trickiest rhythms that we see in here, give you a couple good practice tips and tricks, and then talk about a couple other areas in the etude that my students have found challenging as they've been preparing this. Okay, so let's get started first with rhythm. So there's 3 rhythms that we're going to talk about today. And the first one is the dotted quarter note, almost always followed by an 8th note. And in this case, it definitely is. Right here in measure 17. So how do we count the dotted quarter note? Well, I think the easiest thing to do is pretend the dot's not there, and then you just have a quarter note. So we know a quarter note is worth 1 beat. And then here's the formula for the dot. The dot is always worth half of whatever note it is attached to. So half of 1 is a half. 1 plus a half equals 1.5. So we have 1.5 beats for the dotted quarter note. Now, how do we count it? So again, pretend the dot's not there. If it's just a quarter note, we count that as 1, or more specifically as 1 and. And that would just be like these 2 8th notes right here, 1 and. So it's all in 1 beat. Sometimes we just call it 1, but I think it's easier if we think of it as 1 and. And then we need to add an extra half beat for the dot. So we're going to steal half of the first half of the next beat, which is beat 2. So the first half of the beat is always the number half, and then the second half of the beat is the and. So if we steal the first half here, the 2, then that leaves this with the and part of the beat. So the rhythm will be counted 1 and 2 and, or I like to say 1 hold 2 and, just remembering that we're not moving on 2, we're still holding on 2. So the whole rhythm here together equals 2 beats. All right, so we see this rhythm here in measure 17, and then we've got an identical one over here at measure 19. And that's the only 2 times we see that rhythm in here. All right, the next one is dealing with 16th notes. So this is a review if you already know 16th notes, but it's important to line it up like this. If we have 4 16th notes, those are counted 1, E, and A. And then the real rhythm that we're trying to tackle here is a partial 16th group. And you can see it right here where we've got only 2 16th notes and then there's an 8th note at the front. So how do we count it? Which 2 syllables are these going to be? And I think the easiest thing is to look at the last part of the beat and then line these up with the last part of a group of 16th notes. So those would be here at the end with those 2, and then we'll just tack this one at the beginning because it has to be at the very beginning of the beat, and then you can see how it lines up with the counting. So this one's going to get 1, and these 2 are going to be and a. So we have this rhythm a total of 12 times in the etude, and you see it, from the beginning all the way to the end of the etude. So I'm going to list off what measures it's in. You might want to write this down so that you can either write in your counting over all of them, or you can practice them back to back, just to make sure you really understand this rhythm and can nail it. So it's in measure 1, 5, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 19, 22, and 26. So it's all over the place. Okay, so the third rhythm usually looks like this, and you might recognize it looking like this. And so we've got a long note, and it's surrounded by 2 short notes, and this rhythm is called syncopation. So in the etude, we don't actually see it like this. Here at the very beginning is where we have it, where we've got the eighth note, a quarter note, and then instead of an eighth note, it's two 16th notes. And we know 16th notes are twice the amount of an eighth note. So we're just going to change that into two 16th notes. And now we're going to count this out. So this gets one because it's at the beginning of the measure. And then this is a whole beat, but we're starting halfway through the beat. So this gets the and the first half of the next beat. So and two. And then these line up here and one and two and or you can count it syncopation or short, long, short, short, like that. Whatever works best for you, that's how you should count that. But I'm putting the numbers here, and you can put that into your music, or you can write syncopation or something like that. All right, so we see this rhythm a total of 7 times in the etude, and it's only in the first half. After we have it here in measure 15, then we never see it again. So let me list out the measures where you find the syncopation. It's measure 1, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. And the best thing about this rhythm, it's always on beat 1. So it's always going to be counted the exact same way. You don't have to worry about it starting on beat 2 or starting on beat 3. It's always right at the very beginning of the measure. All right, so that's an overview of those 3 rhythms. And now you might want to take a screenshot of this if I wrote too fast or went through too fast and you haven't had a chance to copy it, because I'm going to delete this now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is one of my favorite practice techniques. Yeah, I like the yellow. And that is practicing alike phrases together. So if you work out one of the rhythms that we just talked about, then I think it's important to try and put them together to make sure you're doing them back to back so they all sound the same. So we have 4 alike phrases that I'm going to highlight them for you because it's helpful to count them back to back. So the first one is this syncopation right here at the very beginning, and it goes through the F. So we have that syncopation and then beat 3 and a 1, and we have that exact same thing starting in measure 5 right here, and it goes over to the first note of measure 6. So they're the same rhythm and the same notes and the same articulation. So if you can nail it here, move right on to measure 5 and you can play it again there. All right, let's change colors. This way you'll have like a little color-coded, actually let's use green for this one. You'll have like a little color-coded formula for how to go about practicing this. So the second phrase that we're going to do starts in the middle of measure 8, and it starts with this run. And it goes through the C. Okay, so we've got a partial 16th group, we've got the syncopation in here, we've got running 16th notes and another partial 16th group. And then we have the identical phrase. They're right back to back. So this will start here and go halfway through measure 12. So that's handy to practice those back to back because they actually come back to back in the etude. All right, then here's the third one. Let's change colors again. And we're going to do measure 16. Now this ends, it might look like it's kind of at an awkward place because it's not this whole musical phrase, but we start repeating it here and it's similar for a while until we get to that first note, the D, and then it's different after that. Okay, now something important, and I probably should write this in. That's good enough. This is a misprint here in measure 18. This D that we're tying to, it should actually be a C. if you can see that, it should be exactly the same as what we have right here. So it's 1, 2, and the C is on B2. It's not tied. So this will be 1, 2, like that to a C. So those are some identical phrases too that's handy to practice back to back. All right. And then the last one, let's get another highlighter color. All right, the last one is this run in measure 26. Everyone's finding this really challenging. And I'm going to give you 2 really good hints on this one. So we've got this is right at the end, but guess what? We have seen this one twice earlier in the etude. So the most obvious one is here. We've got the same run. Now it doesn't go quite as far on this one, but you can see like if you're looking up here, they're stacked, pretty much they're written right on top of each other, and it goes to the F. So we've got it there. And then look here, if we take off the very first 2 16th notes of that, we actually have the whole same run. The only difference is on this one, we have an F and then 3 other notes to fill out the beat. And on this one, the F is a quarter note, so it takes up the whole beat. So this one's really tricky for a lot of people, but guess what? You've already done it twice. And here's why it's tricky. Because we've been playing the A flats back in here, and this one is an A natural. All right, so maybe take a screenshot of this, or if you want to mark your own music, if you do okay with highlighting in your music and you can still see everything. But yeah, this is a great way to practice a whole bunch of these alike phrases. All right, and now I'm gonna clear that. And the last thing we're going to talk about are 2 really tricky things that my students have been finding as they're preparing this. So the first one I just alluded to, it's the fact that in the second half of this etude, we get a whole bunch of A flats. So the second half of the etude starts right here in the middle of measure 16. So this one's still A natural, which feels totally normal because we've been playing A natural. And then we've got, A flats there. Actually, I'm going to switch back to pen. So yeah, we've got, A flats here, A flats here, not there, A flats here, A flat, A flat, A flat. And then here's what's getting everybody. Where's orange? Okay. This one is A natural. And this one is A natural. And this one seems to be the hardest because you've had so many A flats. And it's like you just get in the habit of your entire left hand going down for that. But we've got to remember to go back to A natural on both of those. All right, and then the other great practice hack I have for you is the lead-in at the beginning of this second half. So these 3 8th notes that we have, these B flats. So this rhythm, and this is that dotted quarter note rhythm, that very first rhythm we talked about. So we have all sorts of 16th notes running here, and then when we start the second half, all of a sudden our note values are much longer. So we've got like a whole bunch of 8th notes plus this dotted quarter note and then another quarter note. So it feels slower, and it's kind of tricky to make the transition. But if you count it out here, so actually let me change color. I don't know what to use. Let's use light blue. All right, so our counting here is and 3 and then we've got 3 more 8th notes over here and 3 and. So at the very end of both of those measures, we have 3 8th notes. And guess what? This dotted quarter note is also worth 3 8th notes, right? We already talked it would be 1 and 2. So you can see, it's pretty much an identical rhythm there. And if you keep the 8th note beat going in your head through this note, then you're going to make this transition really successfully. So you might want to think, and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and that'll be really helpful. And you can even play it that way where you tongue all 3 of the eighth notes in there. So it would be ta 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 ta, so that you can hear all of those eighth notes and make sure you're giving enough time for these and for the dotted quarter note. So same thing happens right here. And it actually, oh, yeah, just right through there, where we've got and 3 and 1, hold 2 and 3 and I like to count that again, 1, hold 2, so that you remember you're still holding through beat 2. All right, so yeah, hopefully that will help you make that transition here with these slower moving notes. All right, so what if you are this far along in the process and you have just been shying away from practicing this one because the rhythm's really hard? Well, I think the best thing to do is don't worry about the rhythm. Get your notes down first, because you can do notes without rhythm, but you can't do rhythm if you don't have the notes. So just work out your notes first, and then when you feel a little more confident on just notes, then you can go back through, listen to the explanations again, maybe listen to the performance video again, just hear how they're lining up now that you know how to do the counting, and then you can start working in the rhythm on all of these. And another thing is, I know our tempo range up here says quarter note equals 94 to 100 plus. Normally our range is a little wider than, like 6 beats. Usually it'd be something like, 84 to 100. But this one's pretty tight. So don't worry about being right in that range. The most important thing is to make sure you're playing it correctly, not just trying to hit the tempo range, because if it's smooth and even at a slower tempo, that sounds a lot better than if it's fast and sloppy. And definitely, when we're sitting on the audition committee, we don't have metronomes back there clocking to make sure that you're falling right in the tempo range. It's going to sound, it's going to sound like you're doing it clean, or it's going to sound like your playing is a little sloppy. Okay, and then I think that's about everything that I wanted to cover today. Just remember, the judges, and your band directors, we're all cheering you on through this process. Sometimes it can be a little stressful, but I hope you have fun preparing it and playing it for us, and I can't wait to hear you guys audition. All right, so be sure to look for the instructional video on Etude 1, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.